Welcome to Holly's Pandorium, featuring your host, psychic medium Holly Jordan.
Hey everybody, it's Holly. We're back. Hey, I've got another new guest to introduce you to. And this is someone who I had a very interesting connect with literally on Facebook. I just started noticing some things that he was doing on Facebook and really took a liking to it. So he's got stories I have never heard. So I'm very excited to hear what he's going to share with us today. Please welcome with me Timothy Wayne Williams. Hey, Timothy, how are you today?
Hey, Holly, I'm great. Thanks so much for having me on your show. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So tell us what got you into paranormal type things and tell us a little bit about the work you do.
Okay. I'm Timothy Wayne Williams. I'm an artist in Indianapolis. And I'm an artist and I'm also a published author, illustrator, musician. So I do a little bit of everything. But I've always been interested in the paranormal big time. I'm of that age where the show In Search of, with Leonard Nimoy that came out like in the 70s, I guess, was huge for me. I remember my dad coming and getting me and saying, "You've got to see this show." They're talking
Right.
about this creature that might exist, and it was the Bigfoot episode, the Patterson Gimlin
Mhm.
film, and that just blew my mind. Like
Right.
monsters could be real, and that was a huge inspiration. And my uncle actually gave me a book called, like, I think it was Strange Stories and Amazing Facts. I think it was like a Time Life book or something. And it was nothing but paranormal stuff. And that just rocked my world. I read that thing cover to cover many times. And so that has started my love for all things paranormal. Um, I was a fine art painter for a long time. And I did normal just fine art shows and stuff. I had modest success. I did okay. And then one day I was listening to a podcast about cryptids, about Bigfoot. And I was doing this landscape and I thought, wouldn't that be hilarious if I just hid a little Bigfoot somewhere in the background, just something just for my own amusement.
Mhm.
And so I did that. And I I probably did that to a dozen paintings and sold them and never even told the people there was a Bigfoot in their
You're
painting,
kidding. Oh my
No,
god,
I mean,
that's funny.
I didn't think anyone would think it was cool.
Oh.
And then there was one day, I posted it on Facebook. And well, actually, there was one day I was having a really slow art show before that story. I was having a really slow art show and nobody was like sticking around in my booth, and that was really annoying me. And so finally, one guy came in, and I was all like, "Hey, there's a Bigfoot in this painting. See if you can find it." And that guy was there for like 15 minutes. And he was dragging people in, going, "Hey, you got to look at this painting," and then people started looking at the other paintings, and I started having some sales. And I was like, okay, maybe people do think this is cool. So
Right.
then I went home and got on Facebook, and I was all like, are there any Bigfoot groups on Facebook? And there's like a million of them. And
Yes.
so I
About
joined all those groups and other paranormal groups, and I started posting some of my work, and people really dug it. And some of the some people in the cryptid world were Doug Hychak was a guy who used to produce Monster Quest on the History Channel,
Right.
and he was a fan, and
Nice. That's
and
awesome.
he was like into it, and so we started talking, and I ended up he has a publishing company with his sons, and we ended up doing two calendars together, and
Mm.
then I got with another publisher, and I did a book I might as well just show this now.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Your Bigfoot Expedition.
Nice.
And this is, it's my hidden Bigfoot art.
Nice.
And it's set up so it's like an expedition. It like starts in the spring, and you go and you write down like how many creatures you see, like in a, I don't know if you can see that, lighting's
Okay.
terrible,
Yeah.
but there's a little part for you to put the creature count. How many do you see on the
Hmm.
page? I don't tell you how many there are. You
Right.
need to look, and then you record how many Bigfoot you see. And then at the very end of the book, you go and you see if you were right. I have thumbnails of each painting
Right.
that show where they all were. They were circled.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I don't
That's
leave you hanging.
awesome.
But yeah, I mean, and the book is done well, you know, um, and that's available on Amazon. And
Cool.
uh, yeah, so anyhow, that is kind of what I'm all about. You know, I hide Bigfoot in paintings for a living. I was able to quit a job of 32 years.
You're
And
kidding.
no,
That's amazing.
well, you know, I tell people it's like I'm not exactly getting rich, but I'm not
Right.
destitute. You know, as long as I'm
Right.
not destitute, I'm, you know, I'm happy. So
Right.
yeah.
So, gosh, so how long have you been painting the Bigfoots in your work now?
Oof, maybe I don't know. I probably, when people ask me this, I probably give them a different thing every time because I'm not sure. I think 6 years, maybe.
Okay.
And yeah, and I've been painting exclusively for 4, I think.
Okay.
So yeah.
And so in the book, you actually have other creatures other than Bigfoot plus
No,
Bigfoot in the images, or are they
that
alternate?
one is just Bigfoot, but
Okay.
I do other paintings
Okay.
that, you know, I hide, you know, ghost, I hide UFOs sometimes. Those, a lot of times I don't hide those. Those are kind of obvious, but
Right.
yeah, I'll hide ghost. I've hit other cryptids, you know, dog man, you know, all this kind of stuff. Um, Mothman, just
Nice.
about anything really. I have I have people. I get really strange. I do lots of commissions too,
Do
and
you?
I had one person, you know, who liked some of my flowers that I did. You know, I used to do, you know, flowers and, you know, land, you know, other still lifes, other things besides, you know, what I do. And I did a vase of flowers, and I took the painting to the person. They were local, and they loved it. They were real happy, and they're like, "No, where's the Bigfoot?" And I'm like, "Wait a minute, you want a Bigfoot in the
In
vase
with
of
the
flowers?"
flowers?
And they're
Really?
like, "Oh yeah." They're like, "Well, you're kind of known for that." So
Oh
I had to
gosh.
drag it back home and put a Bigfoot in. It's so strange, but
Wow.
you know, hey, that's what they wanted. So
That's
yeah,
incredible.
well, thanks. Yeah, I'm real proud of it.
I would be too. That's amazing. That's an
It's
interesting combination.
it's a very unique uh, job I have. I'll say that. I do travel,
Absolutely.
and I do shows, you know, paranormal,
Do
cryptid
you?
type
That's what I
shows.
was gonna
Yeah,
ask. Yeah.
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 Yeah, I'm all over the place. This year, I'm actually heading west from where I am, and this is a big deal with me because I normally go east. So this year, I'll be in Wisconsin, and I'm going to be at a gallery in Oklahoma uh, in July. Kind of
Oh,
excited about
fun.
that. Yeah.
That'll be incredible.
So yeah, for me, that's west. People are probably
Right.
like,
No, I get it. I get
that's
it.
not west, but for me, it is. Yeah,
So, can you share any personal experiences in the paranormal?
absolutely. I had several stories, but the two I think people really like. I have what I would call maybe a demonic encounter, and then one that's, I think, an angelic encounter. And I'll leave
Okay.
it up to everyone to decide what they think. But so I was a musician for a long time. And when I was in high school, I had a band, a rock band in high school, and we were doing pretty well. And we were all very poor, though, but, we were doing okay. And we decided, what we need to do is to have like a showcase show. We'll rent out like a hall, and we'll do our own show, and invite all our friends, and just we'll just have this big show. So we were all real excited about it, and the place we found to do this show, it was in Anderson, Indiana, and it's literally just like I think you would call it a pole barn. There's like nothing to it.
Okay.
It's just a big rectangle building.
Okay.
No real rooms in it. It had a bar that you could rent out if you needed to. And and when I mean bar is like not a working bar with people in. I mean just literally a bar like you would sit at that
Okay.
you could use to make it a snack bar or sell
Okay.
alcohol. But we were all underage. But that's beside the point. But there was nothing to this building. There was a stage, and then that bar, and then seating, and then
Mhm.
that was it. There was a couple garage doors where you would load in and out your gear, and then one door that they would take tickets. Just like regular door. And we were setting up the night before the show, and we were we were almost all done, and we were literally standing by the um, soundboard saying goodbye to each other, just like, "Hey, I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, we're gonna totally rock it tomorrow. It's gonna be great." And just as we started to walk away, we heard this real loud cackling laugh, and we all look up, and sitting on one of the bass speakers we had was this short guy. Um, Sitting on the speaker just laughing his head off. I mean, like he'd heard the funniest thing. I mean, just belly laugh. And we're all looking at each other like, where'd this guy come from? We don't know how he got in.
Right.
And we had the garage doors were closed. After we had loaded in, we closed the garage doors, and we're all like, how did this guy get in? So that was our first thing. And then someone was like, we can't leave until this guy's gone. We're not leaving him in with our stuff, obviously. And so we're all like, someone's got to go talk to him. And the whole time, this guy's laughing. Okay. So I don't know why me, but I got kind of pushed forward, like, go talk to him, go talk to that guy. So I was all, I was like, yeah, I guess I should do this. And so I go up to the guy, and I'm trying to be real cool. I'm like, hey, man, what are you doing here? And he's like, hey, I got something for you. You're gonna love this. You're gonna love this. And I'm like, okay, what do you got? What are you talking about? And he puts his hand behind his back, okay, and he pulls out a stack of Polaroids. He could barely fit his fingers around. It's like, like in a cartoon, like where Bugs Bunny would reach behind their
Yeah.
back and they come out with like a club,
Right.
or
Something
something,
huge. Right.
something huge. This guy reaches behind his back just like that and pulls out a stack of Polaroids. And he's like, check these out. And then he's handing them to me. And I look down, and they are so pornographic. It's ridiculous. And I'm like, okay, this guy's a pimp or something,
Right.
And I'm like, okay, this is disturbing. And I'm like, no, man, I don't want any of this. I totally don't want anything from you. And he goes, no, man. What do you want? I can get you whatever you want. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe he's dealing drugs. I don't know.
Right.
And I kept telling him, no, I don't want anything from you. he finally got real serious and looked me in the eyes. And he was like, no, listen, what do you need? Tell me, what do you want? What do you need? And that just creeped me out so bad, the way he looked at me. It was like he went from laughing, being real jovial to just suddenly just this dead stare right in my eyes. And luckily, one of the other guitar players came up to me and he's like, what does this guy want? And I'm like, I'm not sure, and then that dude starts going through the Polaroids. I'm like, dude, come on, we want to leave this guy alone. So, so I'm like, dude, you got to go. And he starts laughing again. And so I walk back to the soundboard where the rest of the band and like our girlfriends are standing, and it wasn't very far, 20 feet maybe from where he
Okay.
was to where the soundboard was, which you
Okay.
back then you normally put it in the middle of the hall. And I walk back, and in the time, 20 feet, in the time that walk back, everybody immediately huddles around me. And you know how you do that thing where you're getting ready to talk about somebody, but you want to make sure they're not listening. You know how you kind of look over
Right.
your shoulder, like make sure they're not listening. As soon as I
Right.
looked over my shoulder, he was gone,
Wow.
just completely gone. And we're all looking at each other, and I'm like, Where'd this dude go?" And I'm like, "Did anyone see him, leave?"
Right.
And there's no way he could have left without walking by us. He
Right.
was closest to the garage doors, but they were closed. We would have heard them open,
Right.
and there was only one way out. And so we were freaking out really bad. And so I was all like, "We can't leave this guy in here. We got to find him. He's hiding. He's got to
Right.
be hiding."
Right.
And so we're looking everywhere. And like I said, there's nothing to this building. And I even looked under. I was a drummer and I had a drum riser, and I was all like, "That's about the only place he could hide. Is under
Right.
that riser." And
Right.
we looked there; he's not there. And so we had to just leave. And still, I to this day, I have no idea what that was about. And I years later, some people were like, "Well, that was your crossroads moment," and I'm like, and they were saying, the story of uh, the guy who went to the crossroads and sold
Right.
his soul, for fame or just to be great on guitar. And now I thought back about it, and I thought, well, why would he approach me about that? And
Right.
of all us guys, I was the absolute most poor out of all of it and the most desperate. I
Wow.
definitely was like, I have nothing else going on. It's like I'm either going to be a rock star or, or I don't know, or homeless.
Okay.
And it was like, maybe that's why I was approached, but I don't know.
So
But
let me ask you a couple questions really quick
sure,
before we go
absolutely.
further.
Yeah.
So how many people were with you that day?
Um, about 7, I think.
Okay. And what was the age range from the youngest to the oldest?
The oldest was actually my sister was there. Actually, it might have been 8 people.
Okay.
She was probably 30 at the time.
Okay. And the
And the
youngest?
youngest was 15, which was me.
Okay. So that's a good chunk of eyes
Oh, yeah.
looking around and enough witnesses to really digest that something very odd was happening.
Yeah,
And so
absolutely.
have you guys talked about this since? Have you gone
Well,
back and thought about what happened and gone over it?
now here's another freaky thing about that was some of the people don't remember it at all, which is blows my mind because that's all we talked about for like weeks,
I
you know?
bet.
And none of the band band members remember. A couple of the members aren't alive anymore, but uh, the ones I have reached out to, they're no idea. It was until I found one of our crew guys, who our stage kind of guy, talked to him, and this was only about a year ago,
Hmm.
and he was like, "Oh, I totally remember that guy." And I'm
Wow.
like, "Thank God somebody remembers." I'm
Right.
like, "We talked," and he was like, "Yeah, we talked about it all the time." And I'm like, "Why doesn't, like, even my sister not remember this?"
I was just going to ask, did your sister remember anything
No,
about it?
no memory of it whatsoever.
Wow.
So weird.
That's incredible.
It's one of the most odd things in my life, and everyone was there. Everyone, and only two of us remember it. So very
That's
strange.
incredible. So
Yeah,
what do you if you're your best guess, what do you think he was or what do you think his object was in doing all that?
I I think it was something demonic, and I
Mhm.
think if I would have taken him up on whatever he was offering, I think it would have been bad for me. Maybe
Yeah.
I would have had, you know, short-term success, you know, but yeah, I think it probably was, my crossroads moment. Maybe this guy was going to say, "Do you want to be a
Could be.
fantastic drummer and, be rich and famous?"
And
And
what city was this in?
this Anderson, Indiana.
Anderson, Indiana. Okay.
Mhm.
Amazing. Amazing. So that had to be interesting. So just to give a little background to the story, were you raised in a religious family?
Yeah, not hardcore, but yeah. Hmm.
Okay. Okay. Um, so had you ever thought much about demonic things, or had you ever heard about somebody dealing with a demon directly before or
No, no,
some
not really. I mean, I don't know. There might have been some stories in some of the books I read, but it's not anything that was on my radar. And it was a long time later, that I really, we all were still trying to figure out what happened, but I guess I didn't think it was demonic until a bit later.
well,
When,
and I think just the setting, being in a big open space, unless there's a radio playing or something going on, and this is more than 20 years ago, so chances are there wasn't a sound system going on at the time, and so you hear everything, every creak of the wood, every wisp of the wind. When you're outside like that in a big open space, you hear everything. You hear every little creek and frog and cricket and whatever's going on around, it's echoes. It's a big open space and you're gonna hear it. So I think you're right. If he was to have walked out of the space, you would have heard his footsteps. You would have heard the door move. Somebody would have turned to look, someone would have seen him leave.
yeah, absolutely. There was no way he could have left without us noticing. No, no
Right.
way. Completely impossible. Um, I do get asked all the time, like, what do you look like? And the best way I can describe him was, if you've ever seen the movie The Shining,
Mhm.
if you remember, there was a actor, his name is Scatman Crothers, and
Okay.
he was the guy who taught the little boy what The Shining was.
Okay.
And he looked like him. It looked
Interesting.
he was a short, kind of African American guy.
Mhm.
And
Interesting.
I'm fairly short, but he was even shorter than I was, which was kind of crazy. So
That's
yeah,
amazing.
so that's what he looked like.
Wow. And you were just a kid. You were
Oh yeah,
very young.
oh yeah, I was super young. Yeah, 15.
So, in your lifetime, have you felt the presence of other energies around you other than that?
I um Evil energies, not so much. Um there was one time my sister was having a party. My sister used to have these parties all the time, and I was even younger. And I me and my friend, I mean, we were probably 12, and my sister would have these parties when my parents would leave, and we would sneak like drinks of alcohol when no one was looking.
Mhm.
And I remember getting kind of drunk one night, and I remember I had a voice in my head, and it's weird. It wasn't just a thought. This was a voice, and it said something like, "Doesn't this feel good? Doesn't this feel good to party?" Or how you're feeling right now. Isn't this fun? And you can have this the rest of your life if you want. It will cause your family horrible pain and suffering, but I can give this to you. And this was all in my head, and it
Wow.
freaked me out. And I immediately did not drink again until I was probably 17. So it was kind of crazy.
Yeah,
But
that's pretty profound.
yeah, I know. It was like something was giving me a choice. It's like, hey, it seems like in my life there's a theme there. But I
Definitely, but the temptation is very curious,
mhm,
and what's also curious to me is the verbiage.
mhm,
When people oftentimes hear things, they often hear it in their own voice, they feel like they're having a conversation with themselves, and, you kind of ask a rhetorical question. You're thinking out loud basically in your own mind of, "Wouldn't this be nice?" or "That would be
mhm.
fun," or whatever, but yours seem to be more external. It sounds like the things that you've heard have been definitely from another source, not something you would ask yourself typically.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't even on my radar as to
Right.
something, like, was I sitting there contemplating, hey, maybe I'll, be a, one of those people that, maybe's been, gets thrown in jail, when they're, a bit older, do I want to be that person? Do I want to be a super bad boy?
Right.
And, it wasn't like I was thinking that.
Right.
It just entered my mind, and there was this whole conversation.
Very
But
interesting.
I
Very
did
interesting.
have a what I think was an angelic encounter, and this is a weird one. I tell people I have some really unique stories, and this one is it involves a toilet of all things. Okay,
Okay. You
so
have my
I know.
attention. All
Okay,
right.
yeah. So back when my wife and I first moved into where we live, we were not making a ton of money at the time. The place I was working, matter of fact, I think she wasn't working at the time, and we had very limited money. And then we decided we did need to get a new toilet because the old one was leaking or something. I forget. And so we had enough money to get a new toilet. And so I was all like, well, I've never done put a toilet in, but how hard could it be? When I take the old one out, I'll just see how it was
Right.
put in, and I'll just put the other one right back in. Simple. And so I take the toilet out and put the new one on, and it's not fitting right. It's not working. And I, it just wasn't fitting on there right. And I could not figure out why it wasn't. And I, uh, I would normally have my in-laws help me with this. My father-in-law definitely would know how to handle it, but he was in West Virginia at the time. And I did call a couple people. They weren't sure how to help me. I even went to like the hardware store and
Mhm.
found like their plumbing specialist and was trying to explain to him. It's like, no, see, I got this thing and it's not sealing to the ground, but it should be. There's no reason why it wouldn't.
Right.
And the whole family, that's something that I thought was going to take maybe a couple hours turned into a couple days.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
And the family was getting really upset with me.
Oh, I'm
And
sure.
yeah, they were, they're like, we're not going in a bucket in the garage much longer,
Right. Right.
So I felt horrible.
Right.
And I was kind of mad at my dad for never teaching me how to do any of this stuff. I was all like, was just like, come on, other dads teach their sons this kind of stuff. And
Mhm.
I was just really kind of desperate. And I even had one of my friends come over who his dad had owned a plumbing company, had worked with his dad for years. And so I thought, well, he absolutely will know how to fix this. I
Right.
showed him what was going on, and he was all like, dude, I have no idea why that is not working.
Hmm.
And so he was baffled. So I was really upset, super upset about this. And I thought, "Ugh, all right, I'd already been to maybe two or three hardware stores talking to their plumbing experts. No
Right.
one was helping, but I thought, well, I'll go to another one, maybe the next one, they'll have a guy who knows what I'm
Right.
talking about. So I was standing in the plumbing aisle, just looking, waiting to see if a plumbing guy would come around, and no one had come around for a little while. But I was like, well, I was walking him down the aisle, like just looking, like there's got to be something. There's got to be a part, that I need.
Mhm.
And so I'm standing there, just dejected, just feeling horrible. And there was a guy 10 feet away, 10, 15 feet away in the same aisle, and he goes, "What you working on?" And I glance over at the guy, and I'm like, I've got this plumbing problem, and I didn't want to talk about it. I just didn't want to get into it. And he's like, "No, well, what is it you're working on?" And I thought, man, I do not want a small talk. And the guy looked young, like younger than me, and he looked like maybe maybe a little homeless. He didn't, he looked kind of scruffy.
Mhm.
And I thought, there's no way this kid will know,
Right.
what I'm dealing with. So normally I'm super nice to people, but I just did not want to have to sit here. I just thought, okay, this guy's just lonely and he wants to talk.
Right.
So I was being nice about it, but I was also like, I just, I'm just working on something. And he's like, no, come on, tell me what's going on. And finally, after him insisting on talking to me about it, I gave him a real, like, well, see, I got this toilet's not fitting right, and so I tell him the story, and he doesn't say anything. He walks away, and not very far either. The same aisle I was in, and he reaches down and grabs this part that I don't recall ever seeing, and he hands me this part, and he says, "This is what you need, and this is exactly how to put it in." And he told me everything about how to put it in, you know, and it was actually really easy. And so I'm sitting there staring at this part, just like, how did I not see this in any
Right.
hardware store? And I'm
Right.
looking at it, I'm like, I think this is absolutely what I need. It was this extension thing.
Funny.
And as I'm sitting there staring at this thing, kind of in disbelief, my wife walks up because she was in another part of the store. She walks up, and at this time, the guy was walking away from me. Okay. I mean,
Mhm.
after he told me how to put it in, he just turned and was walking away. And as my wife walks up, I see him out of the corner of my eye just turn to the next aisle. And my wife goes, "Who was that?" And I go, "You won't believe this, but I think that guy just solved my problem."
Mm.
And she goes, "Well, did you thank him?" And I'm like, "I think I did, but I wanted to make sure I did." So I ran and I just saw the guy go to the next aisle. I go to that aisle, he's not there. And I look in some of the other aisles that are around. I end up looking all through the store. I mean, I didn't go through every aisle, but I really looked pretty hard for this guy. And I thought, well, maybe I'll see him when we check out. And no, I never did see the guy. He like completely vanished.
Oh,
And
funny.
I went home and I had the toilet going in like 15 minutes. It was crazy. So I was just like, what are the odds, that this guy insisted, on telling me how to put this in. And it was, if he didn't do that, I don't know what I would have done. We did not have the money for a plumber. I guess I should have said that right away.
Right.
We did not have the money to get a plumber. That was just not on the table.
No, that's a wonderful story. I've actually heard several people share moments in time like what you're describing where, for lack of a better term, things seemed pretty hopeless. Like
Mhm.
there was no resolution in sight at all. And from little things to finding a parking space to dramatic health improvement or, money coming from nowhere or, somewhere very unexpected, something happens like what you're describing. And so
Right.
I kind of feel like there's literally an angel department for absolutely everything that we go through.
I totally agree with that. Because I've had people go, there's no way an angel or whatever would come down
Absolutely there
to
is.
help you with a toilet. And I'm
Yeah.
like, why not? I mean,
So
I don't know why.
there's a famous church in Europe, and I'm sorry I don't recall the name, but there was construction being done, and the gentleman who was building it died. And not long after, the the friar and the nuns that were there residing, it was a Catholic church, kept praying for a solution because they needed a set of stairs and some other
Oh,
things
yeah.
finished.
Yeah, it's a
And
very famous story. Yeah.
yes, and so this guy shows up out of nowhere and without using a single nail, builds this incredible staircase that has never
Spiral
gotten
staircase.
loose, very involved, very geometrically perfect. They would
Yep.
bring him food periodically, but he kept to himself and he just worked until it was done and then was gone.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
love that story.
not a
Yeah.
single nail, you know,
Mhm.
didn't do a lot of what a normal worker would do. He was definitely on a different level, and definitely his skills were beyond human comprehension in many ways.
Mhm.
I think that
And didn't take any money. Did
he
not take
refused
a
to take
dime.
money.
Yep.
He did eat a little bit. They were able to feed him a little bit, but not much. I mean, they were feeling guilty because he was working such long hours. And he kept saying, "I'm fine. Just let me do my job. Just leave me alone. Let me do my thing,"
Yeah.
basically. But gracious and kind and extremely thoughtful. And they couldn't say enough nice things about the guy. And then
Yeah.
poof, he was gone.
Yeah.
But this was something that was a genuine need. They had to finish the building. They had to have this staircase there.
Yeah.
And it's still there.
Yeah.
It's
I would
been
love to see that someday.
I would
That'd be
too. I
amazing.
agree. I would
Wouldn't that
love
be
to see
so
that.
cool?
Yes.
So
Yes.
cool.
Well, working with wood is an art all by itself
Oh,
to
yeah.
me. There's so much to it. In fact, my husband and I were building cabinets today with those not the famous well-known company that you build furniture from, but something from Lowe's. And it still amazes me that there's so many ways to build a box.
Yeah,
Just
that
to
is
build a
true.
simple box is,
Yeah.
18 pages and a video later. And screws, some I had enough of and some I had too many and some I didn't have enough, so I had to improvise. It's just life putting things together. But yeah, that's just amazing. I love
Mhm.
that story.
I do too. Love
I
that.
just think that's amazing. That's totally wonderful. So one of my biggest questions is,
Mhm.
when you decided to add, let's go back to the painting again.
Mhm.
When you decided to add images of Bigfoot, how did you decide on a particular image, and who is your inspiration, or what is your inspiration for the images that you create of the Bigfoot in your pictures?
Oh, that's a
I
good
mean, like,
question.
is there a face that you really resonate with or that really
Well,
speaks to
I
you? Are they
mean,
all a little different?
yeah, they're all a little different. I do have kind of a way I like to paint the face, but um, I don't think there's any specific thing. I being in the cryptid world and knowing all these people in this world. Yeah, I've seen tons of drawings and paintings and representations. I guess when I paint one, it's just kind of what I think one might look like. Um, I definitely would say none of mine look like the famous Patterson Gimlin Patty one. Uh, I don't think they look like that. But I hear when I do shows, I have people come up to me all the time and tell me their experiences, and I always ask, well, what it look like, and and I get those stories too if they've actually seen it, and
Right.
so I don't know, maybe subconsciously I'm kind of channeling that when I paint it in there. But the thing is, when I'm hiding them in there, they're usually really small,
Yeah.
because I'm hiding it, and he's usually peeking from out behind a tree, and he's, and the way I paint, it's very busy, and there's a lot going on, and it's easy to look right by him. And I've had some actually famous Bigfoot researchers come up to me and go that they like my art because they say it's exactly like what they think it is, like when they're out in the woods, that there's something staring at them and
Right.
they will walk right by it and not see it. And that's kind of how my paintings are. It's like unless you really study, I get people give up all the time. They're like, I cannot find the Bigfoot, and then I'll
That's
show them,
awesome.
and then they're like, oh, it's staring right at me. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
you know,
That's
and they're
awesome.
like, that's how it is in the wild. So I don't know.
That's awesome. So, when did you start doing the UFOs and ghosts, and when
Well,
did you expand your characters?
probably, just a couple years into it, when I saw that the Bigfoot stuff, people really liked that. I think I had people actually request some of it, like, hey, why don't you do, a haunted house for ghosts? And I'm like, that's a great idea. I love haunted houses and stuff like that. I love that kind of stuff. I love
Right.
painting, abandoned places. There's a beauty all unto itself. And I don't want to paint things that I think are evil,
Right.
but I like things that are a little spooky, but in a beautiful way.
Right.
And so, yeah, and UFOs, mostly when I do those, I'm doing a commission of what
Okay.
somebody saw. They're like, they've had an experience, and they're like, yeah, I want to see if you can replicate this. And so I've heard lots of UFO stories too.
Well, that's really cool because I think for me as a psychic medium, there's things that I see like a movie in my head,
Mhm.
and I've thought many times it would be great if I could plug something into my brain and let people see what I see
Oh yeah, yeah.
because it's really different.
Hmm.
And sometimes it's very ordinary, but to get to see something come to life in a solid form is amazing. And like getting to use some of the different equipment for ghost hunting and all that. It's great to hear voices, it's great to hear sounds, but to me pictures are kind of incredible and they're irreplaceable because it fills the whole mind to me. It's
Yeah.
it's a sensory thing when you can see things like that. And they say a picture, it creates 1,000 words or whatever.
Mhm. Mhm.
I agree with that because you are filling in so much information with the surroundings and everything that's going on with it. I didn't realize you did stuff with ghosts, so that's really
Oh
cool.
yeah, yeah. Let me show you something. Hold on.
Sure,
Yeah,
yeah.
real quick. Hold on. I just sold this yesterday. It's a small one.
You posted that, I love that. That is really cool.
Yeah, and it's right up in the window. There's a
Oh, I
little
see. Okay,
spirit. Yeah.
that's awesome.
So that one's not too hidden. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I don't hide
Right.
it necessarily. It's just subtle.
Yeah.
Um,
There
yeah.
was an art challenge last year or the year before that I thought was pretty fun. It was 2 years ago, and people were picking up landscape art from thrift stores,
Oh
and
yeah.
they were just adding little ghosts to them, and I thought, oh, that's awesome.
I get accused of that. I've had people do that.
Really?
Who occasionally someone will come up who doesn't know who I am, and they'll, at a show, and they'll be all like, "Oh, did you get these at a thrift store?" And I'm like, "No, I painted all these." So
That's
yeah.
funny. That's funny. Wow. That's amazing. Well, you've definitely had an interesting life. So tell me a little bit about your authorship experience.
Well, that's basically my book. There is, even though it's basically a coffee table book of my art,
Right.
but there
Okay.
is a little bit of a story that runs through it. But
Mhm.
I do some humor writing every now and then, and that's like stories on Facebook. I've done some short stories and stuff that have gotten some nice attention, which is kind of cool.
That's cool. So do you have any personal experiences with the paranormal other than the 2 that you shared? Like, have you
Um,
seen a ghost? Have you seen a UFO? Have you seen Dogman?
I may have seen a UFO.
Okay.
I don't tell the story too much because I don't. This one I'm a little less confident that it was, but I was going to see my mom, who lives about an hour away, and it was like, I think it was dusk, and I saw this farmhouse. She lives kind of out, kind of in the country, and I saw this farmhouse kind of in the distance, and I saw this light. And I thought, man, that's a really bright porch light. I thought that was kind of strange, and I kept getting closer and closer. I'm like, is that a porch light? And I'm like, oh, maybe that's like some outdoor light, not a porch light, some big, bright outdoor light. And when I got almost right up on it, it was like blinding almost. And when I got by it, I looked and I saw this thing. It was like on top of a power pole, like a pole they put up to string like your power lines and stuff.
Right.
There was something at the top of that pole that was creating that light, but once I got like past that direct light, I could see what the structure was, and it was very angular. It kind of looked a little bit like the first like Apollo craft that was on the moon, if you know what
Okay.
that thing looked like. It looked like it could have came from that. It had like angular panels. But
Okay.
now keep in mind, this is why I don't tell the story like, because it was, a split second kind of out of
Sure.
the, you know, but I remember thinking, what could that have been? I thought, is that some sort of, just something the power company had on top of that particular pole for some reason?
Right.
It
Right.
wasn't huge. It was probably about the size of um, maybe half the size of a car, and it just seemed like it was attached to the very top of the
Mhm.
pole. And I thought, well, when I come back, when I leave, I'm going to check that out, a little closer, see what was making that light. And when I came back, I found that house and there was nothing on top of that pole. So
Wow.
I don't know what that was. Very
That's
strange.
incredible. That's really incredible. I was just thinking it would be cool to see your interpretation of something like, um, oh my gosh, what is the name of that movie? It was one of the first, I think the first Spielberg movies, and it was about an alien visitation. And I was just
Was
thinking,
it Close Encounters or
yes.
ET?
So in Close Encounters, there's a particular scene where he's the guy who's driving the car. And I'm so terrible with artist names. Um, yes. Okay. So what I was just thinking was in the scene where he's driving up, and I think these goes over railroad tracks or something like
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
and he sees the first light coming to the car. It would be cool to see that image with a dog man and maybe a werewolf and maybe a ghost or some other cryptids in the scenes all looking at it like, what is that?
Yeah. Yeah. That'd be cool. That'd be
Um,
neat.
just for something different because I
Yeah.
think one of the untouched parts of the paranormal art scene is we don't always include cryptids as observers. We're always observing them.
Yeah.
But it would be fun to see them observing another cryptid or another thing and
Yeah.
see them watching, like they're watching like we're watching.
I've done a few commissions that were kind of like that, where
Yeah.
like it was like deep in the woods by a campfire, but there was like a lake, and you see like Nessie, and then there's Bigfoot, and I think I even had a Yeti in there, and a
Nice.
dog man, maybe a Mothman too. But yeah, so I put a bunch of different things in it. So it's kind of cool.
Well, I would like to see your stuff go into the Bigfoot Museum in Boring, Oregon. I would when
like
we're
that.
off camera, I'll send you some information on it. It's a wonderful place, and it's been there for years. And there's a lot of history there, and it's a lot of fun. It's very cool. And I'm glad that you're going to paranormal events, because not everybody can do what you do. And I loved, the Bev Doolittle stuff from the 80s and 90s, because that was clever and interesting. But it's all true nature art things in there. That's a different realm than what you're doing. And so I appreciate your style of painting with the subject matter, because it makes more sense to me. Because life is not perfect. Life is not Bev Doolittle picturesque. It's a little abstract, and it's a little bit, wait a minute, you got to stop and really think and look and go past the first thing that you notice to see the next and the rest of the story. So that's why I've loved your artwork, and I think it would be really fun to just see what else you're going to come up with in the years to come, because I love that people are commissioning you to do things. That's even better. Can you share a couple other of your commissions or things that you thought were interesting that people have asked you to paint?
Trying to think. I did a UFO one where a guy, he told me his story that happened when he was like in his 20s, and the guy's older than me now. And it was he wanted me to try to replicate his encounter as close as possible. And so we talked about it a lot, and I would paint a little bit. Sometimes I'd paint like just a few hours, and then I'd show him the progress, and I'd be all like, am I going in the right direction? And he'd go yay or nay, or and so I did one with it was a huge UFO. I couldn't believe that the guy was that close to it. And him and his girlfriend were in this old kind of 70s car, and he this UFO got very close to the car. It's super freaky. But I'll tell you something that was kind of scary and kind of weird.
What's
I had a guy commission me to do a Wendigo. And this is when right after this is when I stopped doing things that I thought are kind of evil. Because I didn't know much about the Wendigo.
Right.
And the guy told me a story, super creepy story. I researched everything I could on that creature, and it was disturbing. And all the pictures were just evil. But I had already committed to it, so I was like, okay, I'll do it. And so I was working on it, just wasn't going well. I kept sending him pictures, and he was like, no, it's not quite right. And so I was waiting for layers to dry. Oil paints take forever to dry, and I was putting it down in the studio, just kind of on the ground, leaning against the wall, and I would just walk by it. And I kept getting really creepy vibes from it. And then I had a nightmare that involved one of these things. And I'm not even comfortable really saying the name of it too much. But then there was one morning I got up to work on it, to put it on the easel. And I think I was listening to a podcast, and they said they were talking about some actor. And I was like, oh, what was that wonder what other movie that guy was in that I knew. And I was like, I'm going to check IMDb. And I was looking at what this guy had all been in. And the first movie was called Wendigo. And I thought, well, that's a crazy coincidence.
Right.
And then later on, like I saw that word two other places,
Hmm.
like within like a half an hour. And I'm like, it's like I hadn't seen that word, or heard anything about that cryptid in years. And
Right.
suddenly just I was being bombarded with that word,
Right.
and it was like throughout that day, I think I saw it three other times. And
Hmm.
I was all like, this is a sign. This is weird. I don't like this. So I actually
Hmm.
got a hold of the guy. I was all like, I've never done this before, but I don't want to do this painting. I just got a really bad feeling about it. It's just,
I
I
think
had
that was wise,
nightmares.
though. I think
Yeah.
that was the right choice. So did he understand?
Yes. Completely understood. He actually
Right.
did get somebody else to do it, but,
Wow.
but I'm glad it wasn't me. Yeah. He completely
Mm.
understood. I think I had him put a deposit down and I returned it. I was all like, sorry, dude.
Well, honestly, you're smart to respond that way because some people really push down their gut response to life.
Mhm.
We're taught not to acknowledge things that we can't explain easily.
Right.
And so having that discomfort and having that sense to just say, no, thank you,
Yeah.
is the safest and smartest thing you can do because you're resisting. You're saying
Mhm.
no.
Mhm.
Um, Things that aren't nice to us have to get permission to come clear into our space. And so just by rejecting it, you cut off the access to yourself, which was a smart thing to do. So that's wise. That's wise.
Thanks.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So,
I painted over it and I definitely felt better.
yeah,
As soon as I got where I couldn't see it, you know, definitely felt better. And I knew I'd made the right decision.
that's good. No, that makes sense. So do you have anything that you're working on for this year? Do you have any goals this year for your artwork? Is there something new that you're trying, or are you gonna experiment with anything?
This year, uh, part of me thinks maybe the Bigfoot series, it's been an ongoing series for years. I'm kind of wondering if it's run its course and I might go back to doing kind of some normal fine art stuff, but
Mhm.
mix in the paranormal, every now and then, or, maybe do it half and half. I don't know. I might put out another book. I haven't really talked to the publisher about it too much, but that 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 might be in the cards. I do have the book I did, like there was a narrative that runs through it, that because you're on an expedition, it tells you
Mhm.
like, today you're here and then, tomorrow, you're going to be here and then there were sightings. But anyhow, after I completed the book, I thought, why didn't I do like a real story? I could write a real story, a real hardcore story to go along with the images. And so I think the next book I'm going to do that. So that's kind of a goal. I don't know if it'll be next year or not, but
Cool. Well, I can think of a couple that I'll share with you off camera that there's different stories with ghosts that I think might be really fun,
oh,
to
cool,
just have
cool,
them show up in different places and do things that way.
yeah, cool.
So, there's lots of events out here in the Pacific Northwest where I'm at. In fact, we just had, our March event that's fairly common in this area called the Oregon Ghost Conference,
Mm.
and if you're ever able to attend that, I think you'd probably love it, and I think you'd do really well.
Oh, I'm sure I would
It's
love.
in Seaside, Oregon, and it's just for a weekend,
Mm.
and there's all types of vendors that do all sorts of things, but I don't know of anyone that does what you do, honestly.
I
If they were out there, I just haven't seen them or heard of them yet, but I'm sure someone does, but I just haven't
There
seen them.
have been people who have come out doing it, kind of copycat, but definitely I pretty sure I was the first to do, a hidden Bigfoot, definitely a series.
Right,
I think I was the first, but I don't know that for sure. But
right.
yeah, I have noticed some other people doing it. It's a little annoying, but whatever. I
But
just,
they
I just
say,
correct. My thing is, I'll just be better at it.
there
I'll
you
just
go.
do better art. I'll do,
Well, and variety is the spice of life. We want to see a lot of different interpretations of the same thing because it's more fun,
yeah,
because it speaks to people differently.
absolutely.
Well, honestly, Tim, I'd like to check back with you in 6 months or so and see where you're at and hear some more stories about what you've been painting.
No, that'd be
Um,
great.
I appreciate having you on today. This was very fun and very different. Um, this is Holly from Holly's Pandorium, and I just wanted to give Tim a second to let people know how to reach him if you want to see his art or if you're interested in purchasing his art. Can you tell us and share it with the viewing and listening audience? How can people reach you if they want to shop?
Yeah, I used to have a website, but no one was going to it, and I was selling everything through social media, so I just got rid of my website. So
Mhm.
yes, you can get a hold of me on social media mostly. On Facebook, if you go to t.w.williams Fine Arts on Facebook,
Okay.
you'll find me, and you can always, DM me for um, price quotes on something, commissions, you could always send me a picture and go, hey, what do you think about this? Um, that is a good, Facebook Messenger is definitely a good place to get a hold of me. Instagram, and that's Timothy underscore Wayne underscore Williams underscore. It's really
Okay.
long, but it's fairly easy to remember.
Okay.
Um, on TikTok, it's I'm at the Painting Pirate.
Okay.
So yeah. So any of those three places is probably the best. I mean, you could always email me at twwilliamsfinearts@yahoo.com too.
Okay, cool.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you again, Tim, for coming on
Thank you.
today. And I'm glad that you shared stuff, and I'm glad we got to share a little bit of your imagery. And this is Holly from Holly's Pandora saying thank you all for stopping by. And as my friend Jay likes to remind me, please hit the like and share. It helps get this content out to more people that are interested. Until next time, have a good evening, and we'll see you again soon.